All right. So I'm I have a lot of different things I want to do today, so I'm just going to get this out of the way right now, which is okay, great, wonderful. I'm in a very talkative mood, so I'm going to talk about a few different things and the ramblings will go on. So it's going to be one of those videos. I was just talking with somebody about doing the things that they want to do, right? And one of the things Sorry, I totally lost train of thought there. One of the things that I pointed to is you have to put consistency above everything else because everything follows after consistency. It doesn't matter how good you are at something, it doesn't matter how much you really want to do it if you don't actually do it. So you have to go through and you have to make sure that you're consistent. If you're consistent, then you'll start to improve and you'll start to realize if you're consistent and you want to do the thing, right? Very important. If you're consistent and you want to get better at the thing, then what's going to happen is you're going to just keep writing and you'll be like, oh, I wrote that and it was bad. Oh, I wrote that and it was bad. Oh, I wrote that and it was bad. Oh, I wrote that and this is how it was bad. Okay, let's try to do that a little bit better. Oh, I wrote that. That was bad, but I did that thing right. Oh, I wrote that. Oh, I did the thing wrong again. Okay, let's. But if you do it over and over and over and over again, right, with the intention of going through and actually improving at the thing, like play a piano scale over and over and over and over again. And if you're trying to make it as smooth as possible, you'll realize, oh, there was a bump there. Okay, let's do that again. Oh, that was okay. That was good. Oh, that one didn't work. It was a little like that was slower than I wanted it to be. X, Y, Z. If you go through and you do that sort of thing, then you're going to improve, right? But you have to do it. You have to make sure that you're doing it. If you're going through and trying to sing, you have to go through and you practice singing over and over and over and over and over again. The second trick to improving is actually input. So you have to have consistent output, and then you want to have as much input as you can take and actually keep track of. So if you're trying to write a story, right, you want to write every day. And you probably are going to write multiple hours a day every day if this is something you really want to do. Because if it's something you really want to do, YouTube's going to be like, hey, you got a notification. You're going to be like, yeah, screw that. I'm going to write. It's going to be like, hey, you want to indulge in 30 minutes of TikTok? No, heck no. Writing is way more enjoyable. But then you also have to make sure that you read. Because if all you do is write, you're only going to have your writings to base it off of. So you have to make sure that you have input of the same thing. So you write a lot and you read a lot, and you will become a good writer if you criticize yourself properly. And you're not quite the best criticizer, You're either too harsh on yourself or too lenient with yourself. You're not a good gauge for if you're doing well or not. So what you want to do is you want to then express that stuff. You take it and you put it out to the world, and you have people tell you how you did wrong or how you did right and how they didn't like stuff and how they really like some things. And you have to engage with the criticism that is genuine, right? Some criticism is just you did bad, do better kind of stuff, and that is it's not helpful. It's not helpful. It does give you a data point, but it's just not. It doesn't tell you where to go from there. It just tells you where not to go, and that can be helpful, but it's really not a good baseline. So you start to do that, and you start to put your stuff out there, and then you can find a community that actually engages you in a way that causes you to grow, right? And it's not engages you in a way that you really enjoy. It's engages you in a way that makes it so that you enjoy what you're doing more. And not because they're saying that you're doing something good. It's because you are doing better because you're improving because of what they're saying, right? So don't echo chamber yourself. And you're probably going to have like 2 or 3 of these. you should have one solid one and probably branch out a few times just in case. And that way you can have a good orientation of what's echo chambering you and what's not, and if you're actually doing good. And, you'll have your nice community of the stuff, and that can be like 5 friends, that can be like some random people on the internet who know how to write, or like whatever. If you're drawing, just put your stuff on some different like art Instagrams or X or whatever, all the things. So you want input, you want constant output, consistency is key, and then you want feedback. And with those 3 things, you can achieve pretty much anything that you're trying to do, right? So I did that with magic. I took a deck of cards and I started shuffling, and I learned some different magic tricks. And I went to some people and I performed magic. And I had this one person in my school who just did not understand how I was doing any of it, and her mind was blown 100% of the time. She was my favorite person to perform magic for because her reactions were so genuine. But she was the person that I improved from the least, because anything that I did wrong, she didn't even see it, right? So I'd go through and I'd do that, and then I would also perform these tricks to my parents, because my parents have a very keen eye, and they would call me out when I would do something wacky. And my dad used to do some speaking and whatnot, so I'd be able to tell when I was about to pull the trick. So then it taught me to not amp up for the trick, but actually amp up for when the trick doesn't happen. So if I go through and I, am about to perform a magic trick, I perform the trick as if nothing is happening, and then I amp up the actual performance of it. So then they're looking for where the trick isn't, and then it started getting past them, and that made me better at magic. I don't do that anymore these days, but it was a good example of like how to improve. So those are the things that you need. You need someone who will. You need a group preferably a group. You could have one individual that does it if they do it really well, but you could have a group of people who will criticize your work in a genuine manner, a constant an input of things that you enjoy, right? So if you're trying to write fantasy, don't go reading math books, because those aren't going to help you. They could genuinely help you, depending on how well you extrapolate. But you're going to want the core of what you're reading to also be fantasy. And then throw in some like psychology and some theology and some history, and throw in the other things to add spice and depth to your fantasy. But if you want at least 50% of what you're inputting to be the thing that you want to output. And then the rest of the stuff can add flavor to whatever you're doing. Right? So if you're trying to oil paint, you can look at some different. You want half of what you're looking at to be other oil paints, so then you can get a feel and idea of how they look, and then you can start, throwing in some digital tricks so it looks a lot more like a digital piece with some highlights and whatnot, and maybe playing around with some different mediums. But you want a good chunk of what you're doing to be the thing that you're trying to do. That way, it gives you a good reference. Now, if you've already consumed all of that, you might not need that as much, and then you can delve into all the rest of the stuff. But that's the trick there. The other thing that I was thinking of is I was looking back on. It almost caught me. I almost got caught in the YouTube trap, right? So there's a trap mentality with YouTube, where you start to focus on, the views and the engagement and all the stuff with your videos. And I just recently released a procrastination video on how to stop procrastinating. It's like 38 minutes long, and there's 30 minutes of good content in there. And, I spent like an hour and a half doing it, and it engaged blah. It got like 4 views on it, and the comment, and 1 comment, which was me. And then I'm like, that doesn't feel the nicest. And then I realized, wait, why do I care? That's not the point of the channel. it's like, okay, cool, it didn't engage well, but not because it didn't do well. It didn't engage well because it didn't get out there and no one saw it. It's not like, oh, it didn't engage well, so this work that you put into it was bad. No, because it doesn't have any dislikes on it. It has like one like and whatnot. But it doesn't have any comments on it and all the things. So it's like, that's not a good baseline to judge how well your thing is doing. So I'm like, maybe I should realize that it doesn't actually matter about the views and the engagement if the people who are engaging on it are giving genuine criticism. And I think I did really well on it, and because I think I did really well on it, and it also took a lot of effort out of me to put through, whether it actually turned out to be a good video or not, I think it was good for me to put an hour and a half of time into a video so I could, actually produce something that seemed like I was producing quality, like higher quality stuff than what I've done in the past. And so I almost got trapped in the YouTube, oh, it's about the views, it's about the engagement, about that. And then I'm like, wait, I don't even care about that. Why do I care about this? So you have to be, this is more of like a PSA warning. If you're doing this kind of stuff, you have to make sure that you stick to the core thing of why you're doing it, For me, I'm doing it because I like creating stuff. Right? So the point of me doing it is the act of the creating itself, and the feedback that I get helps me create better stuff, which I like. I like to create better stuff than what I did previously. But it actually, the engagement isn't the thing that matters. It's actually the act of the creating. And it was interesting to see that I was starting to get lost in the loop of, oh, well, I need engagement and I need this and I need that. And I'm like, wait a second, I don't even care about this. So I got lost in the like YouTube trap of, hey, we'll the bigger number means better video means better person. It's like, wait a second, I don't even subscribe to that belief. Why is this happening? So then I thought about it and I realized that there might be some sort of mentality when you go online that you have to do good and you have to get these better numbers and you have to you have to hit X, Y, and Z, and if this video doesn't perform as well as your best performing video, then you're doing something wrong. And it's like, no, wait a second, that's not a good framework to approach life in. That doesn't help you. That only makes you like a miserable, short-sighted person who's gonna constantly be chasing the instant gratification of views, and not actually and lose the piece of the content that the channel was originally built for, which was, it's a platform for me to demonstrate the creations of things that I've done. And if I end up making a video about, how to stop procrastinating, cool, that's awesome. Because that's something that I've had to deal with, throughout my life. So it was a place where I felt confident in being able to express a way in which to deal with it and, whatnot. So, there's been some cool stuff going on and whatnot. And it's good to recognize when you're starting to fall away from your goal, from the original core idea of what you had, right? Your main quest. If you're starting to fall away from your main quest with stuff like that, you really need to do some reevaluation for why that's happening, especially if that happens over and over and over again, because that's going to get, if something's constantly trying to pull you away from your main quest, that's going to become a problem as soon as it succeeds, right? And it's going to succeed if you don't know how it's attacking and you don't know how to defend from that. So for me, I realized, well, wait a second, views don't actually matter, because it's incredible that at least one person sits down and looks at my video for a modicum of a second when there's billions of YouTube videos out there for someone to look at, And it's incredible that 4 people have, or any amount of people really, even if it's just one person, has decided that your content is is enjoyable enough for them to sit down and actually click a button so that you go through and get some sort of knowledge that they're actually doing something, right? So like if someone subscribes or likes or hold on, sorry, roommate knocking at the door. Where was I? Someone subscribes or likes or something like that. If someone decides that your content is good enough to engage with even a minimum amount, right? Then or if they care about the content enough to even dislike it, you know? There's a lot of videos that you can see that you're just like, that was a meh video, and then you click off. And someone goes, okay, cool. I dislike that enough that I'm gonna click a button. You know, there's some sort of idea behind that where it's incredible that even one person could do that, right? So if I get even one person to do that for my thing, then it's like, what the heck? That's awesome. And I'd lost sight of that for about half a second when I woke up this morning and looked at the engagement of a video that I spent an hour and a half on, and it didn't seem like it did well. And then I realized 4 people looked at that video and, decided to take time out of their day to listen to the wackiness of what I'm saying. That's pretty cool. So, yeah.